Hello and a very warm welcome to Talking Germany, the show where we do just that. And welcome to a new, longer version of Talking Germany that gives you an extra 15 minutes that I hope you will very much enjoy. And my first guest on the new format is one of the biggest stars in the music business here in Germany. And he has been for the last 4 decades or so. And here he is, in person, the one and only Peter Maffay. Thank you very, very much for joining us here on Talking Germany.
Nice having me here.
It's great to have you here. Now, Peter Maffay has sold more than 40 million records in his long career in German music, and he's played and sung his way into the hearts of music lovers with his own version of German pop and rock. He's very much a man of the people, and I'm sure we can look forward to hearing what he has to say about the following topics. The heart of music. Peter Maffay has worked hard for his success, but he's also prepared to work hard for others. Home to home, some 400,000 Romanians with German roots have left their country of birth to start a new life elsewhere. Among them, our studio guest. And over the limit, as many as 2.5 million people here in Germany are estimated to be alcoholics. Here too, Peter Maffay has a story to tell. Did you like my introduction?
Very much. I feel a little bit strange because I never did an interview like this before, so it's a completely new experience for me.
Well, but great, really great that you're here. You are, there's no doubt about it, in Germany, I think it's fair to say, you are a real a legend, yeah? Outside Germany, you're not so well known. The obvious reason for that is...
Absolutely not, no.
You're honest and you're modest, yeah? You're not well known outside Germany. This has got to do with the language. How important is the language? Go on, tell me about the language.
I suppose that it has to do, of course, with the language. Sure. I sing in German since I started with my music career.
Yeah.
And only once in a while I did sing in English because of my friends I worked with. Uh-huh. We did several projects together with other artists coming from all parts of the world. And then, of course, English was much easier for us to communicate with.
Sure.
So I tried to sing in English, but my focus is German.
Yeah. And just tell me this, because I've hinted already for our audience that you were born in Romania, and we'll talk about that later.
Okay.
German was your first language?
German is my mother tongue.
Is your mother tongue? Yeah. But you grew up speaking other languages?
Yes, of course.
Tell me about that.
I come from Transylvania, which you probably don't see, only at 12 at night, maybe. No, I was born in Brașov, which is one of the Transylvanian German cities. Mm-hmm. And you've been absolutely right. My mother was German. My father, he is Hungarian. Mm-hmm. And I was born in Romania, so it's...
And so what language did you guys speak at home? You were an only child, so there were the three of you together. What language were you speaking to
We spoke
each other?
German. We spoke German, and we used to speak, of course, out in the street. We spoke Romanian, and with friends and neighbors and so on, Hungarian.
It's an impressive...
My grandma, she insisted that I was talking to her I spoke with her in Hungarian.
Okay, so
I was the only grandson she had who spoke Hungarian, so I was a victim.
Yeah, so you've got Hungarian, Romanian, German.
German, yes.
English, you're speaking, and you speak Spanish as well.
Well, I speak that Spanish which you use if you're on the finca working together with others or building a house or something like that. So it's a very specific Spanish.
Okay.
I'm not really good in it.
Okay.
Well, but I get along with it somehow.
Okie dokie. Some wonderful first impressions there of Peter Maffay. Here is more.
For more than 40 years, Peter Maffay has been one of Germany's most successful musicians. Now 62, he's sold more than 40 million records to date.
Weißt du nicht weiter, komm ich vorbei dir.
In 2010, he once again shot straight to the top of the German charts. That makes him the most successful German-speaking album artist of all time. He was born in 1949 as Peter Alexander Maffay in the Romanian city of Brasov. His ethnic German mother and Hungarian father moved to the town of Waldkraiburg in Bavaria to ensure a better future for their son, who was already in love with music. Maffay started out by playing in clubs in Munich but had little success. Then in 1970, he was discovered by music manager Michael Kunze. Kunze produced his hit Du. From then on, Maffay was seen as a pop star, an image that stayed with him for a long time, even when he crossed over to rock music in the late 1970s. His album Steppenwolf, released in 1979, marked the turning point. He was a rocker, no longer singing conventional pop songs. In 1982, he toured with a band as an opening act for the Rolling Stones. Although a Stones fan himself, the tour was a disaster for Maffay. He was booed and pelted with eggs. His change in style was hard-won. Maffay threw himself into his music and sought escape in alcohol. But he worked his way back up to the top again. With the rock fairy tale Tabaluga, he managed another change in image. The story of the little magic dragon was a huge hit, with stadium tours and a cartoon series, and it won him a new audience. In addition to his music, Peter Maffay is active in many social projects, and he founded the Tabaluga Children's Foundation. In 2008, he was awarded the German Order of Merit for his social commitment. He also has an organic farm in Mallorca, where he lives with his fourth wife, Tanya, and his 8-year-old son, Yaris. He's recently finished his 5th Tabaluga CD in his studios on Lake Starnberg near Munich. And today, he's our guest on Talking Germany, Peter Maffay.
You were having a lot of fun watching that report, yeah?
Yeah, especially when I see that those things I wear.
I'm not surprised. There's a lot of social history in that report, German social history, and there's a lot of hair.
A lot of hair too, yes.
A lot of hair, yeah. Let's go back to your early days, yeah? You already mentioned you grew up in Transylvania.
Exactly.
In Romania.
Yeah.
In the town of Kronstadt, was what the Germans call it. Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah?
Yes.
The Romanians call it Brasov. Okay. Yeah. And you were into music from a relatively early age.
Yes, my mother, she insisted that I played violin.
She insisted?
Yes, she had the power to,
that sounds
to do so. Yeah, it was. Not just for me, for everybody.
For everybody.
They had to listen to it. So that was my revenge.
That was your revenge.
I started doing that, playing violin at the age of 7. Mm-hmm. And she always wished that I would end up playing the Torselli Serenade, which I did when I was 14. I said, that's it.
You got there.
Thank you very much.
Okay. And was something else happening at the same time? Were you getting... Because you were a teenager by this time, and you must have been getting interested in pop music. Was there pop music in Romania?
No.
Could you buy it? Could you go to a record shop? And...
No, you could not buy foreign music. You could not buy foreign clothes. Mm-hmm. You could not buy foreign... newspapers and so on.
Okay.
By that time, this communist country was completely isolated.
Yeah.
And we lived there without knowing what happened outside in the world.
No idea.
So once in a while, somebody would show up from Germany and bring a record. And that passed through thousands of hands. And
can you remember what kind of records people were bringing? Yeah. Or was it was like pop music? People were listening to it in the West?
They brought music which they used to hear here in Germany.
Okay. And when you arrived in Germany, you were 14 years old.
That was completely different then.
Yeah.
TV, radio, you could make your choice.
And when did you first start listening to music, pop music, and thinking, this is sexy?
24 hours after we have landed. No, I was stunned by these pictures of rock bands playing and their attitude and the things they were, the instruments and so on. I thought that was exactly what I wanted to do. So I joined a band in my little hometown.
These were the Dukes? The
yes.
Dukes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was the beginning of the end.
There were I've also heard reports that you were spotted in cafes singing Bob Dylan songs.
I did.
You did?
Yes.
In English or in German?
In English.
Ooh.
I had a girlfriend.
Yeah.
And she was very much into this kind of music. Peter, Paul, Mary, John Baez, Bob Dylan, and so on.
Yeah.
So I started singing those folk songs, which I liked a lot, even today.
Yeah.
And that's how we got discovered by a German producer.
So what age were you now? You're still 17, 18, 19 when you get discovered?
By that time, I was 18 years old,
okay.
17 years old, yes.
But then something else happened then. Then you became what Germans call, we saw it in the report, you became a Schlager singer. What Schlager music?
How would you
very difficult to describe.
I think there is no specific word for that in English.
Definitely not.
Schlager, if you translate it verbally, is nothing else but pop.
Hit music.
Hit music, yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
It's almost like German
stylistically, it is a little bit different.
It's quite sugary.
Yes, that's a good expression for it. Yeah.
Was it your music, or were you doing it, but you didn't really want to be doing it?
I didn't think so much about if it was the right music or not. It was my first record deal I could have, and I grabbed it because I could not imagine that somebody 2 years, 3 years later would make me an offer again. Yeah. So I said, let's start with it, and later we...
And you sold a lot of records.
We sold quite some records.
Big hits.
Yeah.
But then at some stage you decided...
yeah, because it got boring. I mean, those who made the decisions in the record company, they tried to do me the same thing many times because they thought they would earn good money with it. Yeah. But it was musically and from a viewpoint of a musician, it was absolutely boring. So I started playing together with bands, with other musicians, and I got interested in different styles. So we started producing our records, our own. Yeah. And that was the beginning of a switch.
And then you became a real rock musician. And then there was this episode with you were touring with the Stones. You were the warm-up band for the Stones.
Yes.
What happened there?
The word which has been used in this film was disaster. Yeah.
Why was it a disaster? I haven't understood that.
We are very good in polarizing here in Germany. This may be a very specific quality we developed.
Yeah, I'm with you.
through the past, and but apart from that, I was not prepared for a situation to play as a warm-up band for the Stones. I was not prepared to play in front of 70,000 people, and I messed it up. I completely messed it up because I reacted in a wrong way when these first acclamations happened. Yeah. I could have gone through it easily if I was prepared for it, but so I had to learn a bitter lesson, which was good after all. Okay. I'm very thankful that it happened.
We'll come back to the lesson in a moment. Okay, we'll pick up at right that point again in Peter's story in just a couple of minutes' time. But let's first go back to his Romanian background. And it was a relatively common practice in some of the communist states that existed before the fall of the Berlin Wall to charge an often substantial fee to let people to leave the country and literally go west and seek a new life. And as we see now, such cynical business was a major source of income for the Romanian dictator Nicolae Ceausescu.
For years, this man carried money by the kilo. He withdrew millions of Deutschmarks from the bank, always discreetly and unnoticed. Attorney Heinz Husch was working secretly for the West German government. His job was to get as many ethnic Germans as possible out of Romania.
It really was a unique large-scale humanitarian measure to bring freedom to people living without freedom and in need. To put it more dramatically, to liberate them politically.
It was perhaps the largest operation of its kind in German history. For years, the files were classified. The West German government's negotiations on the emigration of more than 220,000 ethnic German Romanians were meticulously recorded.
Even at the time, I found it rather distasteful, but we had no other possibility, no other way to get them out. It was the right thing to do under those circumstances.
In Romania, 40 years ago, dictator Nicolae Ceausescu ruled with an iron hand. His aim was Romania for the Romanians. Other ethnic groups, even those who had lived there for centuries, were oppressed. Ceausescu made a show of tolerance to the outside world and let Romanians of German descent emigrate for a price. At that time, many ethnic Germans lived in western Romania, in the Banat region. Werner Salm was one of them. He returned with us to the town where he spent his childhood and youth. He went to school and then studied music here. But increasingly he felt imprisoned. Negotiations on the emigration of families like his were conducted in Bucharest. More than 400,000 ethnic Germans like Werner Salm have left Romania. This church bears silent testimony to a bygone era.
This illustrates the situation in the Banat precisely. The Germans leave their hometowns, and at some point there won't be anyone left. Just like this church, where nobody does anything anymore. As you can see, nobody takes care of it. Everything's going to ruin.
It's estimated that Ceausescu was given the equivalent of €500 million in exchange for the emigrating Germans. But it was a questionable deal for Romania. The gaps left by the exodus have never been closed.
OK, Peter Maffay, you were born, we know, in Brașov, in Transylvania, and your family came to Germany when you were 14 years old. How did that happen?
It was not easy to get out, to leave Romania. You had to have relatives of the first grade in Western countries. And then they had to pay cash for you to be able to leave the country.
And who was your
my grandma?
Your grandmother?
She gathered all the money she had, and she paid those, I think, $12,000, which it costed to
and where was she
let us
then?
go.
Where was she living?
She used to. She lived by that time. She lived in New Jersey, in the States. And
so she scratched together. That
as
was
an old lady,
she
was not rich. She just had that amount of money, and with that we escaped from that system.
Yeah. Had your parents ever been to Germany at that time before?
My father used to join the German army.
Oh.
And my mother studied in Stuttgart during the war. Both went back to Romania, which was maybe not exactly the right decision at that time.
Yeah. So they went back to Romania at the end of the war?
At the end of the... Yes, exactly. And then they closed down the country. Yeah. Nobody could go out anymore. And meanwhile, all my relatives, my grandpa, my grandma, and so on, they had left the country already. So we've been the only ones to stay there. Yeah.
Well, at this time, when you were living with your parents, they knew Germany. Your mother was German. What did they tell you about Germany? What were you expecting as a youngster before you actually got here?
To be honest, we did not speak much about that past. And I think it had to do because everybody was scared to speak out something which was prohibited to talk about. It was absolutely dangerous to criticize the communist system. It was absolutely dangerous to remember those years in 41, 45. So we did not mix up with politics. We, as children, were told to keep our mouth shut and not talk about politics. It was way too dangerous. I experienced several times when they came to take hold of my father, and then they took him with them, the Securitate.
Really? But he came back. He came back.
He came back maybe 1 day later, maybe 2-3 days later. So you can imagine the pressure under which we all lived. It was not a single case.
A youngster, your father said, when you came to live in Germany, as I understand it, he said, "I'm never going back to Romania."
Exactly.
But he did. You took him back.
The two of us, we went back to Romania because some of my Romanian friends, they said, your roots are still very alive, even if you don't think so.
Okay.
And to find out if that was the case, I went to Romania and asked my father into joining me, which he hesitated first to do so, but then we ended up 2 older men walking through Kronstadt.
Wonderful. And this is, let's have a look at we've got some images now. We've got your father here talking at the opening of a children's home.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, and the children's home is in Radel, in Romania, which is quite near Kronstadt that you're talking about. Yeah. And
there was...
Mit einem Wort gerührt, erstens, und zweitens sehr, sehr stolz auf meinen Sohn.
And there was a quick clip from your father, and your father is saying how proud he is of you.
Yeah, he said something else which was much more important.
Go on then.
He said, I have come to Romania again after so many years and without hate. And I start from scratch now.
That's wonderful.
That was very generous because he spoke out what concerns and still concerns thousands of people. So it was a gesture of wie sagt man, verzeihen, of forgiveness.
Forgiveness? Yeah. It was pardoning people.
Exactly.
So it was a happy end to that story in a way.
It wasn't a happy end. It was the beginning of maybe a happy end.
Yeah.
Because with that, I think he started making his peace.
Okay. We're going to... the actual clip that we saw there, you were actually opening a children's home, or you were at the opening of a children's home that you'd been involved with in setting up that project.
Yes.
And we're going to talk about your charitable work in just a minute.
Yes.
Yeah? We'll come back to that. Let's go back. We've talked a little bit about one major setback that Peter Maffay suffered, the story around the stones, and that Peter was saying how hurt he was. And we've also talked about him being perhaps a little bit of an outsider in his childhood. And then on top of all that, he's certainly the kind of person, I know this because of my research, that he puts himself under a lot of pressure in his work. So for whatever the reason, at some stage in the middle of his career, he went a little bit, I think it's fair to say, off the rails. And he drank a lot, which is putting it mildly. In fact, he became an alcoholic. And as we see in this next report, getting back on track is not easy.
Helmut Pfleger isn't ashamed to tell his story. He's an alcoholic and is proud that he hasn't had a drink in a year. The former postman's drinking began almost 20 years ago. A few beers slowly increased to become a real addiction. At first, he didn't want to admit it. He lied to himself and everyone around him.
Sometimes I'd hide bottles. I hid them in cupboards. I'd put a few in the toilet tank and in the basement. I don't even know why I did that. But you do it because you're somehow ashamed of yourself and try to hide it.
Nowadays, Helmut is very open about his condition. He writes songs about his addiction and plays them to fellow alcoholics. Café Steinrausch in Langenfeld in the Rhineland is a meeting place for recovering addicts and those at risk of addiction. People here welcome his candor.
It reminds me a little of when I used to drink. I'd hide alcohol in my locker and all that too. It really had me in its grip.
I find music very emotional. When I hear it, a lot of emotions are released. So music, especially when it deals with this subject, affects me deeply.
nahegehend.
Many people Helmut knew have died as a result of alcohol abuse, and he knows how alcohol affects his own body. As soon as he has a relapse, which has happened several times, he goes straight to the clinic. He's known to the staff at Langefeld Hospital's addiction ward, and he's given the proper treatment.
The body recovers after a week or two. Then it's detoxified. But your mind isn't. It's still locked in your mind.
Helmut neither sings nor plays perfectly, but that doesn't matter to him. What matters to him when he's performing is honesty. Being honest with himself is the most important thing, and that's something he learned through his addiction.
It's a tough story. Tell us out from your own experience what alcohol can do to people.
It depends on how much you drink. So if you end up drinking a lot, then it destroys your stability.
Yeah.
That at least happened to me. I drank maybe 2 bottles of whiskey every day, sometimes 3.
3?
Yeah. And I started in the early morning.
Yeah.
I always drank only a little, but permanently.
So you were keeping you were maintaining a level.
Yeah, you have a permanent booze.
Exactly.
And it makes it very difficult for people to get along with you, because your manners, your attitude, it's
antisocial. Worse.
That is antisocial, but you never know what happens next.
You're very,
I can be in a good mood and 10
you're
seconds.
Exactly.
Exactly. Yeah. So that made it very difficult.
Yeah.
And after all, it's a fight against yourself.
And did you have people around you who, I'm going to say this, did you have people who loved you, people who were on your side, who were?
I had people who would have wished to beat me up for that. And many of my real good friends, they said, stop it, because it's going to destroy you. I also ended up hiding my bottles in my desk in the studio behind.
So you were playing cat and mouse with your friends.
Yeah. And with myself, of course.
And with yourself.
So. But I stopped it from one day to another. As well as smoking. I smoked a lot.
It's interesting. My father was one of those people who stopped smoking. He was smoking 40 a day, and then he stopped. That's what you did.
I stopped because of the diagnosis of a doctor.
Who said?
I saw a doctor, and he said I had lung cancer.
Well, did you?
I was sick, and no, thanks God, no. It was a field diagnosis.
Okay, so the diagnosis was completely
exactly,
it was
and those
wrong?
48 hours of finding out if it was the case or not, that was my therapy.
Okay, it shook you up.
Exactly.
And you stopped drinking?
I stopped smoking first, and then I said, Ballantyne's, Johnny Walker, or whatever we drank, would not taste good anymore without cigarettes. So,
wow,
very weak theory, but.
Yeah. But you lost friends along the way.
I lost friends. I lost relations. I'm married now for the 4th time, so it costed a lot.
Yeah. And what would your advice be to anybody who is?
You know, it's not up to me to give anybody a good advice.
But you've been there. You've been there. Yeah.
I can tell from my own experience that it was not a good time I went through.
How long did it last?
I would say 5 or 6 years.
It's a long time.
Long time.
Yeah.
I was that skinny.
You're not. I mean, you're very skinny now.
No, I was more than. And aggressive.
You were aggressive. Just one quote, because I think it's very interesting. The guy in the report, he said, "You can get it out of your body, but not out of your head." Is it still in your head?
No, not at all.
So you have got it out.
When I stopped smoking and when I stopped drinking, I never regretted my decision. I could not understand why I did it so long, for so long. So there was nothing what you call Entzugserscheinung.
Yeah, there was no like cold turkey almost.
No, not at all.
Yeah,
not at all.
Okay, so you stopped and you thought, I'm in the right place now. This is the place I want to be.
Yeah, I stopped and I did other things. I started doing sports again, which I still do every hour, more or less an hour.
Wow.
Every day, more or less an hour.
Yeah. Good for you.
And that really helps me.
Okay. Let's talk about another aspect of your life, about your career. Something that began in the early 80s, yeah? You suddenly discovered that you could write musicals, basically. A musical.
Yeah.
Tabaluga.
Yeah, because it's an adventure.
It's an adventure.
To illustrate a story with tones.
The story existed already?
No.
No?
No, we said...
Who thought it up? Was this you and Rolf Zuckowski?
Rolf Zuckowski was one.
Yeah. He's been on the show here.
Yeah. Ah, yeah, okay.
Yeah, great guy. Yeah.
He's a great guy, indeed. Then the other one was Gregor Rotschak, a radio disc jockey from Berlin, and a great illustrator, Helme Heine.
So he was the person who actually created the figure?
Exactly.
Okay.
So the four of us, we jumped into that sandbox and started doing a story.
Okay.
And first, we really wanted to do just one and not more than that. And all of a sudden, people came and they showed up and then they told us that kindergartens and schools, they prepared the little Theaterstücke.
Little plays.
Little plays.
Yeah.
And that showed us that this little Tabaluga was a synonym for an attitude for children.
Okay, we'll talk about Tabaluga in just a second. Yeah, what he's like, the little green dragon. Yeah. What we're going to do now, first of all, is look at the latest Tabaluga show. Here it is. It's called Tabaluga and the Signs of the Time. I'm interested I'm interested in three things here. The first thing is Rolf Zuckowski said that when he was developing the character from his point of view, he was thinking of you. He was thinking that you were Tabaluga. Is that right?
He probably thought of being green behind my ears or something like
being
that.
Being a naive sort of a guy. Yeah.
But I mean, for a musician to do something like Tabaluga is extremely beautiful. Because there are no limits. You can musically, you can do all sorts of styles. It's like being in a wonderland. Yeah. And then of course you come together with people whom you never would meet if you just do rock and roll. Rufus Beck, actor. Heinz Hönig, wonderful actor.
He's been involved in that project?
Yes, he's actors.
Yeah? Oh, he's a very good actor, yeah. Oh, yeah, great stuff.
And dancers and costumes. And it's a whole little different world.
And in this latest story, what does Tabaluga get up to? What's the storyline?
He tries to learn about how to use for himself time the right way, how to treat time the right way. Because if you don't, you create collisions throughout your whole life. Those who understand the signs of time, they don't collide. They go smoothly through their life.
Tabaluga is a little bit of he's always trying to find out the truth, isn't he?
Yes.
Yeah. So
he's a little character, a little boy, after all, who learns about life and gathers experience.
That's interesting, Mr. Maffay, because of course you said one of your most famous Tabaluga songs is "I never wanted." I'll say it in German.
Yeah.
Tell me the German.
Yeah? Ich wollte nie erwachsen sein. I never wanted to become a grown-up.
Exactly. Yeah. Is that you?
Yes. Yeah. I think that to maintain a certain amount of kindlichkeit, of
sort of a childish approach to life.
Ja, nicht kindisch.
I don't mean immature, silly, childish. I mean sort of childlike.
Yeah, childlike.
Having childish curiosity.
Yeah.
Childlike curiosity.
That's a beautiful quality in life.
Yeah.
It makes us softer.
It's the way to go, isn't it?
I think so.
Definitely. And when you're going on tour with this latest one
next year.
Now. Next year, yeah? Or no.
This year.
This year.
This year.
You're going on tour this year, yeah?
Yeah.
And is it all going to be kids who are going to be there, or kids and adults?
No, because it's not a musical made only for kids. We say it's made for kids and those who remained kids.
Okay,
of which we have hopefully a lot.
Now, Tabaluga, I should also add, is the name of a foundation that Peter Maffay has set up. It tries to give inspiration and a fresh opportunity to kids who have, in many different ways, been neglected. I think that would be the right word. Now, let's take a look at a film that the foundation put together. Peter, just tell us why we're looking at these pictures.
What we see there is that Vocational House we have in Spain, in Mallorca. I live on a farm.
You live on a farm in... We haven't talked about this, but you've got a farm in Mallorca, and this is nearby?
And this house is right on that farm.
Okay.
So it's in the vicinity of the house where Tanya, my wife, and Yaris and I live.
Okay.
So I meet these children who visit us. I meet them there.
And who are the kids?
The kids come from homes.
Yeah. From children's homes.
Children's homes.
Yeah.
They are mainly traumatized children. They have made experience with violence, with drugs, with sexual abuse, and so on.
And a lot of them are coming from broken homes.
Broken homes, exactly.
Yeah.
And they have very, very. They have been verletzt, injured.
They've been hurt. We're coming back to that word again. Yeah, hurt. Yeah.
And what we try to create there is an atmosphere of a break, of peace, of leaning back, of relaxing, so that they can forget
a fresh start
of their experiences they have made.
And you're working together with the authorities here in Germany.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. We have. Meanwhile, we have like 400 kids coming every year to visit us there.
Kids.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And then we have another house in Germany, in close to Munich, and the third one we talked about that in Romania.
Yeah.
So probably next year we will end up having 600, 700
And just
kids.
give me a little bit more of an idea about the approach. How do you actually do it? How do you tackle the kids?
What we try to do is give the children a chance of experiencing another country, another
environment.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Of experiencing another culture, language, food, and so on.
How long do they stay
to
for?
Open up their...
Do they all stay the same length of time, or does it vary?
Mostly they stay between 1 week and 2 weeks.
Okay.
Right, and then another group is coming.
Okay.
So.
And this is interesting because you're not just... You know, I went out for I met my neighbour the other day on the street, and I said, Peter Maffay is coming on Talking German. She said, oh, Peter Maffay. She said, he does an awful lot of charitable work. And I said, that's true. And she said, why?
Because it's fun.
Oh.
It's fun doing that. And I have to point out that it's not me. It's a group of friends who came together since long.
So it's a group of friends and you've given it a name, a sort of a focus.
Yeah, but we work together since more than 10 years now.
Yeah.
It's our foundation exists 12 years exactly.
Yeah.
And these friends of mine, they decided a long time ago to join me, and it's the only way to proceed together. So it's not me doing all this, it's us, which makes it nicer, more interesting, and
fun.
And it's fun. Absolutely.
Hey, listen, we've got to do one thing before we get to our quiz at the end of the show. We've got a new feature here on Talking Germany that we're going to get our guests to bring in a cherished item, something a prized possession. And Peter Maffay told me that what he's brought with him is a knife. But you're not going to show us the knife. But first of all, you showed me before the show that your knife in your belt. But tell me why. You always have it with you.
Yeah, it's a habit, which I kept since I was a little boy.
And it's always the same knife?
No. From time to time, I lose them. Then I
you go from knife to knife.
Yeah.
Okay, that's an interesting insight, though. Peter Maffay has always got a knife with him. We're going to move on to our quiz at the end of the show. Yeah?
Good.
Quick questions, quick answers. Where's home? Germany or Romania?
Germany.
Bob Dylan or the Rolling Stones?
Bob Dylan.
Ah, good choice. Alcohol is a drink or a drug?
Depends on the amount, but I would say it can become easily a drug.
Peter Maffay is an adult or a child?
Hard to answer. A child.
Peter Maffay is a celebrity or a man of the people?
I don't like to be, and it has never been my aim to be a celebrity.
So you're a man of the people?
I'm Peter Maffay.
Good for you. Great stuff. That's all we've got time for on this edition of the new, longer, improved edition of Talking Germany. It's been the Peter and Peter Show. I hope you've enjoyed it. He has been a great guest. If you've enjoyed his company as much as I have, then do come back next week. Until then, just bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.